Good morning. Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Explosions sounding off in the Red Sea as Yemen's Houthis admit to attacking commercial ships. And India deploys warships near Iran to protect its vital trade routes.
A top aide to Israel's prime minister visits Washington to discuss future plans for Gaza. And President Biden calls Qatar to push for a deal to release hostages.
And Ukraine reporting what it calls a major victory against Russia in the Black Sea. Video shared by Ukrainian forces appears to show a Russian warship exploding.
As 2023 sets a new record for illegal border crossings, around 11,000 migrants are also waiting in Mexico for a legal pathway laid out by the Biden administration. We have updates on the border crisis.
Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy calls presidential TV ad spending a foolish investment and pulls funding for them. Find out more about what's behind the move.
From U.S. inflation to stock market changes, we sit down with the host of NTD Business to get the details on the biggest movers in the business world this year.
And a California fine dining trend takes customers on a culinary trip to the Alps. We have more on the mouth-watering story.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Welcome. Today is Wednesday, December 27th.
Yeah, those Houthis, they're at it again.
Yeah, the U.S. is sure all its hands full in the Red Sea.
Right. CENTCOM says that their destroyer was taking down 12 attack drones from the Houthis and these ballistic missiles that take out ships and even ones attacking land. And this is all just a ripple effect for the Israel-Hamas war, which is topping the news again today. That's
right. So on that note, President Biden spoke with Qatar's Emir yesterday about the urgent need to free hostages held by Hamas. The White House says the two leaders also discussed increasing humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza.
Qatar and Egypt helped mediate a deal between Israel and Hamas at the end of last month. Diplomatic efforts for another pause since then have yielded little public results.
Qatar's state news agency said Biden called to talk about joint mediation efforts for calming the situation to reach a permanent ceasefire. The U.S. believes 8 U.S. citizens are still held captive by Hamas.
A member of Israel's war cabinet met with top officials in Washington yesterday to talk about the next phase of the war.
A White House official says talks included the need to focus on high-value Hamas targets, steps to protect civilians, and Israel's plans for Gaza after the war.
In an effort to reduce civilian casualties in its war against Hamas, Israeli forces evacuated another area in Gaza City. And Israel's defense minister explains that they're not only fighting terrorists in the Gaza Strip, but are also at war on 6 other fronts. NTD's Jason Perry has the latest.
Israel Defense Forces in the Gaza Strip kept a bird's-eye view on this terrorist who tried to set an explosive device next to their tank. He ran away to this building, and the IDF ordered an airstrike on his location. Israel Defense Forces have been taking measures in the Gaza Strip to minimize civilian casualties in its war against Hamas terrorists. They reportedly dropped leaflets on Monday to Palestinians in central Gaza, asking them to evacuate the barrage camp.
We left with our clothes on. We have been forced out.
On Tuesday, the IDF released a video showing what they found in the evacuated camp, a Hamas terrorist training facility. It had rifles set up at firing positions, along with what appear to be training explosive devices. But it's not just the Gaza Strip Israel is at war with. Israel's Minister of Defense said this on Tuesday.
We are in a multi-front war and are coming under attack from 7 different theaters: Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran.
And he added that Israel has already taken decisive measures.
We have already responded and taken action in 6 of these theaters. And I say here in the most explicit way, Anyone who acts against us is a potential target. There is no immunity for anyone.
All of the areas that Israel's defense minister mentioned have terrorist groups backed by Iran, which has for years vowed to destroy Israel. For one, Iran supports Hamas, which is responsible for the October 7th massacre. It supports the Islamic Jihad in the West Bank, who consistently attack Israeli forces. And across Israel's northern border, Iran also supports Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon, who've been firing rockets into northern Israel on a daily basis. Tehran supports the Houthi terrorists in Yemen, who have been firing attack drones and missiles at Israel and attacking ships in the Red Sea that they think are headed to Israel. It also supports terrorists in Syria, who have also been launching attacks at Israel. And looking further out, Iran receives support from the Chinese Communist Party. Iranian-backed Kataib Hezbollah terrorists in Iraq recently injured 3 U.S. service members in a drone attack. Now, just hours after that attack, the U.S. struck terrorist sites in southern Baghdad early Tuesday morning. The U.S. has warned other countries not to get involved in the Israel-Hamas war. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Rounds of explosions sounding off in the Red Sea, the Yemeni Houthis yesterday admitting to a missile attack on a commercial ship sailing through the vital trade route. The shipping company said no crew member was injured from the strikes.
Israel said separately that it had intercepted a hostile area target in the region. And on top of that, the Iran-backed Houthis also claimed responsibility for drone strikes targeting certain parts of Israel.
Since the October 7th attack, the Houthis have been showing solidarity with Hamas terrorists by ramping up missile strikes on cargo ships in the Red Sea.
And India is deploying missile-guided warships near Iran in the Arabian Sea after another attack on merchant shipping.
The move comes after a commercial vessel was struck off the Indian coast over the weekend. India stated it's investigating the nature of the attack. It says initial reports point to a drone.
The Pentagon says it was a drone launched from Iran. Iran's foreign ministry called the accusations baseless.
India's defense minister promised to take strict action against those responsible for the attack. He says surveillance in the region has been increased and that the Navy is committed to keeping the Indian Ocean safe and secure for maritime trade.
India's chief admiral at an inauguration ceremony Monday said 4 Indian destroyers are currently deployed to counter piracy and drone attacks on merchant shipping in the region.
A U.S.-led task force named Operation Prosperity Guardian is setting out to counter similar challenges in the Red Sea.
And for a closer look at the escalating tensions in the Middle East, a retired Navy SEAL officer, Mike Soriali, told NTD that to deter the Houthis from attacking ships in the Red Sea, it's necessary to strike the source, which he says is in Iran. Take a look.
I think the word necessary is a little belated. While I'm glad to see that the Department of Defense and the Biden administration finally took action, it's too little too late. One of our service members was critically wounded. Their life will be completely different. We've been treating, in essence, our troops as cannon fodder for the last 2 months as these small attacks have happened. Will it deter Iran? No. And it goes to the Red Sea with the Houthis right now as well. While they've stood up a multinational task force, they are basically on the defensive. We should, because so many nations are affected by the maritime trade, and this will affect the oil and energy markets, we should strike the Houthi targets now to prevent those attacks from even occurring. We're treating the symptoms on a lot of these things, not the disease, which is Iran.
Turning our attention now to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Ukraine yesterday reported a major victory in the Black Sea, saying they severely damaged a Russian warship.
This is such a powerful event for us. In fact, we destroyed both the ship and the occupiers through well-coordinated actions.
Ukraine says it launched an airstrike against a port in Crimea over Tuesday night. Footage appears to show the moment of the explosion. NTD cannot independently verify the video.
The Russian warship is a large landing ship designed for amphibious operations. It can carry tanks and armored vehicles.
Russia said at least one person died in the attack. It's not exactly clear how badly the ship was damaged, but Ukraine says it will be hard for it to re-enter service. Ukrainian officials added that other vessels nearby and the port's infrastructure were likely affected as well.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky congratulated the military for the attack. Russia, meanwhile, confirming that Ukrainian airstrikes damaged the ship, but without saying how badly. This could hinder any Russian attempt to seize more Ukrainian territory along the Black Sea coast.
Over the past several months, Ukrainian forces have conducted attacks around Crimea, mostly with sea drones. And Sweden is one step closer to joining NATO after Turkey's Foreign Affairs Committee gave the green light to its bid yesterday.
Sweden's accession now needs approval from the Turkish Parliament's General Assembly. No date has been set.
Turkey has delayed ratification of Sweden's membership for over a year. It accused Sweden of being too lenient toward groups Turkey considers terrorists, namely Kurdish activists and protesters. Sweden set new anti-terrorism laws this year that make being a member of a terrorist organization illegal.
NATO requires the unanimous approval of all existing members to expand. Turkey and Hungary are the only countries that have been holding out. The delays have frustrated NATO allies, hoping to accept Nordic countries into the Western Alliance.
Hungary stalled Sweden's bid over allegations that Sweden's politicians are lying about the condition of Hungary's democracy.
NATO Secretary General says he's counting on Turkey and Hungary to complete their ratification as soon as possible. He says Sweden's membership will make NATO stronger.
Coming up, a former congressman gets some welcome news. An appeals court has overturned his conviction. Find out why.
And as illegal border crossings reach an all-time high, around 11,000 migrants are also waiting in Mexico for a legal pathway. We have an update on the border crisis.
Rapper Kanye West apologizes in Hebrew for a viral anti-Semitic rant. Hear what he had to say after the break.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Kindness is cool. Because we feel happier when we do good. Kindness connects us with others and improves our self-esteem. Simple actions, meaningful lives. Let's practice kindness, share our love, and show our care for one another. Submit videos of kindness to Gangjing World for prizes up to $10,000 in cash. For more information, visit gangjingworld.com.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. Ready! That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu. And especially this year, no one has time to get sick. Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Good to have you back. A reversal of fortune. A federal appeals court has thrown out the conviction of former Congressman Jeff Fortenberry.
The court says he was charged in the wrong jurisdiction.
The Nebraska Republican was found guilty in 2022 of 3 felony charges. The charges related to lying to federal authorities about campaign contributions.
Prosecutors charged Fortenberry in Los Angeles, where the investigation was based. However, the appeals court ruled he should have been charged in Nebraska or Washington, D.C., where the alleged crimes took place.
The court said federal prosecutors could retry the case, but there's no word yet whether they will. And next, an update on the border crisis. As thousands of illegal immigrants enter the U.S. each day, over 11,000 migrants are now waiting in shelters and camps on Mexico's side of the border.
Migrant caravans in southern Mexico have also been forming, made up of thousands of people from Central and South America.
Federal authorities say the average of weekly illegal crossers reached 9,600 this month. That's up from around 6,800 weekly encounters last month.
NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the latest on the border crisis.
2023 has seen a record number of unlawful crossers trying to enter the U.S., with Customs and Border Protection data sitting around 2.5 million encounters. Community leaders in Mexico told CNN roughly 11,000 migrants are waiting in shelters in northern Mexico, around 3,800 in Tijuana, over 3,000 in Reynosa, and 4,000 in Matamoros. Some looking for legal pathways laid out by the Biden administration. Many are pinning their hopes on the CBP One app. Others want to try to skip the line and cross illegally. Acting CBP Commissioner Troy Miller recently stated the surge is driven in part by pseudo-legitimate travel agencies run in Senegal advertising trips to the U.S.-Mexico border. CBP's senior official says the agencies connect migrants to smugglers that, in his words, recklessly put them in harm's way, like on train tops or crossing the Rio Grande. Miller says smugglers are dropping off between 500 to 1,000 migrants in remote areas of Arizona, creating a logistical nightmare for Border Patrol agents. Customs and Border Protection has temporarily suspended operations at several ports of entry in multiple states to reassign personnel to help with processing. In Texas, Maverick County Sheriff says the crisis is impacting the local economy and community.
The neighborhoods calling for it because they're afraid that the people are walking, strangers walking around the area. It's a situation that the law enforcement's getting a lot of pressure.
A U.S. delegation led by Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to meet with Mexico's president Wednesday in Mexico City. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall will be at the meeting. The DHS says it has deported or returned over 445,000 migrants since May. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The traditional New Year's celebration in Manhattan's Times Square is just a few days away.
New York City officials are expressing security concerns. Mayor Eric Adams says there are added fears in light of recent pro-Palestinian protests, which have turned violent.
And there was an attempt to disrupt the tree lighting. And we're sure that there's going to be some type of attempt this year to use that stage for some other concerns that people are having.
Adams says the police will be using technology to enhance security. They're also employing some new strategies with officers.
This comes after police say 6 pro-Palestinian demonstrators were arrested at a rally in Manhattan on Christmas Day, where at least 1 officer was injured. Kanye West has made a public apology to the Jewish community for a recent anti-Semitic rant. The rapper, now known as Ye, posted his apology on Instagram yesterday. It was written in Hebrew. In it, he said, "I sincerely apologize to the Jewish community for my unplanned outburst. "It was not my intention to hurt or disrespect, and I deeply regret any pain I may have caused." His apology relates to comments he made involving expletives and a rant about Hitler, Jesus, and Trump's legal issues. A video of his comments went viral a couple of weeks ago. West's previous controversial comments have also cost him lucrative sponsorships by Adidas and others.
The Anti-Defamation League responded to West's apology. It said after causing untold damage to countless minds, an apology in Hebrew may be a first step on the long journey to make amends.
The American Jewish Committee, however, criticized West's use of Hebrew. The committee said posting the apology without translation makes it inaccessible to most people.
The group also criticized Kanye West's reference to any pain he may have caused, rather than acknowledging the actual pain he did cause. Switching gears, Lee Sung-kyun, a South Korean actor in the Oscar-winning film Parasite, has been found dead. South Korea's Yonhap news agency reported the news today.
Lee had been under investigation over illegal drug use allegations amid an ongoing government crackdown on drugs.
Lee was found unconscious next to charcoal briquettes inside a car at a park in Seoul this morning. His wife told police that after Lee left home, she found what appeared to be a suicide note.
Lee starred in Parasite and also played leading roles in South Korean movies such as the 2012 movie Helpless and 2014's All About My Wife.
Next, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy says TV ads are just a trick that political consultants use to fool candidates and pulls funding for them. What's behind the decision?
And Iowans hone in on the economy and American strength ahead of the nation's first presidential nominating contest there. A reporter gives us the scoop on how they're likely to turn those concerns into a vote.
January could reshape the 2024 presidential election. Multiple events could significantly affect former President Trump's campaign. Ariane Pastar brings us the key dates to watch out for.
I can remember being back in medical school where it was almost a depressing conception of the brain. We're born with so many neurons that peak like around 20, and then it's just a downhill decline from there. But today, we are going to debunk this old way of thinking and use a new technology called the functional MRI PET scanner to show that the brain can be rewired to function much better. Caused an almost immediate change, and by better, I mean improved focus, longer attention span, better mood, decreased risk of developing dementia, and an overall better life. So get ready to be surprised and even amazed. This is really exciting information as we explore what is possible, as we talk to thought leaders in the field. I needed to make sure I'm really that guy, okay. See the cutting edge tools they are using to assess the brain and hear from real patients about their dramatic healing process.
That's good.
You're American, and then you come home and you're Honduran.
Totally relate to that. Like, it's like double personality kind of thing.
Organize your freezer. Now keep your freezer fresh and long-lasting. Smart Freezer Container. Thanks, Soyun. The magic of the freezer. Make efficient use of freezer space. Keep the freezer cleaner and more tidy. Easy to store modular system. Resistant from -22 degrees to 212 degrees. For family safety, BPA-free and LDPE material. Different sizes for different applications, depending on the size and use. Use it smartly. Efficient space utilization for cold air circulation. Neatly organized with minimal empty space. Partitions and trays for more efficient storage. Smart Freezer Container.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, You'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Dave's Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Dave's Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Good to have you back. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is pulling funding for TV ads with just weeks to go to the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the move.
Ramaswamy's campaign spokesperson confirmed to NBC News that they stopped buying TV ads, which typically make up the majority of political advertising spending, and have none booked for the immediate or distant future. Ramaswamy cast the move in a positive light on X, writing that presidential TV ad spending is idiotic. It comes with a low return on investment and is a trick that political consultants use to bamboozle candidates who suffer from low IQ. The biotech entrepreneur says his campaign is doing things differently, spending money in a way, he says, follows the data. Ramaswamy campaign press secretary Tricia McLaughlin told NBC the campaign is focused on bringing out the voters they've identified, using mail, text, live calls, and going door to door. Ramaswamy continues to project optimism, writing, "Big surprise coming on January 15th. He told Fox News that the Republican Party has grown lazy and needs to offer a better vision to people hungry for change.
What do we actually stand for? Individual, family, nation, God. That actually beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something."
Ramaswamy's move to pull TV ad funding sparked speculation on X that he would be former President Donald Trump's running mate. One user wrote, "He's going to drop out and endorse Trump. It was his plan all along. Not running for president, but auditioning for vice president." While another wrote, "This has VP written all over it." The latest national Real Clear Politics polling averages have former President Donald Trump in front with over 62%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley neck and neck with about 11%, and biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy in fourth with about 4%. The Iowa caucuses are on January 15th, the New Hampshire primary on January 23rd. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Some major issues like the economy and American strength take center stage for Iowans ahead of the caucuses there. We're joined live for a discussion on this by Lawrence Wilson, a reporter for the Epoch Times, who's been covering this very closely. Lawrence, thank you for sharing your insight with us today.
Glad to be here.
Great. So what do Iowa Republicans want in terms of the economy, and which candidate are they hoping can deliver on that?
Well, I think they want the same thing on this one that all Americans want. Number one is to stop inflation. They want to bring interest rates down. We heard about, the cost of housing, the cost of rental housing. They want to bring food and fuel prices down. You talk to a farmer, it's going to be all about farm diesel prices, which have gone up dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years. And you talk to families, well, you'll get an earful about the cost of a bag of groceries or a box of diapers. So they're really looking to get things back to baseline, I think, and bring down inflation, bring down prices. The ones who talk the most about that talk the most about Trump, but I don't know that that was necessarily a one-for-one equation in their mind. They just want things to get cheaper.
Right, and we've seen that Trump actually oversaw a net energy export with the United States under his leadership there. So which candidate stands to gain the most from domestic energy policy from which candidate?
Yeah, it's impossible to say because they're also pro-energy. Now, Trump has talked a lot about fossil fuels and maybe has talked the most about beating back the Biden era push toward green energy, e-vehicles, and so forth. But Ramaswamy has said he wants to drill, frack, unleash nuclear. Nikki Haley has talked about easing permitting for drilling, also getting a lot of money from people with interest in the oil business. DeSantis, similar. So they're all pretty strong on energy. Probably Trump has the edge on, at least in the minds of these voters.
Yeah, well, Trump has that advantage of having served in the White House and giving voters something to base their decisions on. And we obviously see him using tariffs on China to help farmers, American farmers, who were the victims of unfair trade practices here. So do you think Trump's foreign policy will actually help appease Iowa voters, the farmers?
Well, farmers, I think it will. You know, farmers are really competing globally now, and we heard about that from Iowa farmers. They're not just concerned about domestic prices, they're concerned about selling their grain overseas. China's been very aggressive in building up markets or buying grain from other places besides the United States, even Argentina right here in our hemisphere. So a president who can combat Chinese influence in the world, ensure access to markets, is going to be popular with farmers, and Trump certainly has a record of doing that.
Right, so what do Iowans consider to be American strength, and how will that affect both parties' caucuses there?
Well, it's interesting. You hear two different kind of versions of that. There's the America First kind of approach, which of course Trump, Ramaswamy as well, very strong on that. Then there's the American Strength Abroad approach, which is the kind of the Reagan-esque, we need to beat back Putin, make sure Taiwan is safe, deal with Iran, be the policeman of the world. And so there's a kind of a split there among Republicans. And so you're going to see some going for Trump, Ramaswamy on those grounds, and others maybe for Haley or DeSantis, especially Haley, more on the American projecting strength abroad. For Dems, they've got really one choice, which is one real choice, which is Joe Biden. But I think among the GOP, that's kind of going to be a split between Trump Ramaswamy followers and Haley DeSantis followers.
Very interesting, Lawrence. Yeah, and we've seen Trump participate in that concept of the American police globally, in that he took out the Iranian General Soleimani during his time in the White House. Lawrence Wilson, reporter for the Epoch Times, thank you.
Pleasure.
Major twists in the 2024 presidential race could come in January. Key events are slated, many of which might impact former President Trump.
He's leading in the polls, but legal battles are looming over his campaign. NTD's Aaron Pastar has more on what to look out for after New Year's Eve.
5 key events in January could affect the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. Let's first take a look at Colorado's Supreme Court removing former President Trump from the state's 2024 ballot. Shortly after the decision was made last week, Trump spoke at an event in Iowa.
They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way, and I always will stand in their way.
Many are now expecting the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene, which might happen by January 4th. That's because on January 5th, the state is set to start printing ballots for its primaries. On January 10th, CNN will host a Republican primary debate in Iowa, just 5 days before the state's caucuses. Debates have proven they can boost or hurt campaigns. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is now on pace with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in nationwide polls, partly thanks to strong performances, like in this News Nation debate.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him and now they support me.
In a less consequential case for Trump, closing arguments are set to begin on January 11th in New York City. That's in the civil trial over Trump's New York City business, which the judge has already found liable for fraud. He'll now decide the amount the former president has to pay. This case is more likely to reach a timely conclusion than other trials. On January 15th, Iowa will hold its caucuses. Trump is expected to emerge as the winner, as he's leading the polls at 50% according to polling averages. Less than 3 points separate DeSantis and Haley at roughly 18 and 16 respectively. Coming in second in Iowa is crucial for DeSantis to maintain his role as the top challenger to Trump. And lastly, New Hampshire will hold its primaries on January 23rd. Trump is leading the polls in that state as well, enjoying a strong 20-point lead over Haley. DeSantis comes in fourth, behind former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. However, the state's rules make it hard to predict an outcome. Voters who are not affiliated with a party can request either a Republican or Democratic ballot on primary day. Ariane Pastar, NTD News.
Coming up, from inflation issues to the stock market, we get a review of the major movers in the business world with the host of NTD Business.
The Israeli government has agreed to give Intel a $3.2 billion grant to build a new chip plant in southern Israel. Find out what this means for Israel's economy.
The year 2023 has been an eventful one. With just a few days left, we took a look at some of the top news stories that changed people's lives.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shen Yun.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
When they learn something new and you can just see in their faces, it's such an incredible moment. It's those moments that are my favorite.
Good to have you back. We also have Don Ma with us, our NTD Business host, today with a business news recap of 2023.
One of the most talked about things this year was inflation, and it has steadily cooled. So Don, what are some of the biggest milestones in this area?
Well, Kevin, for the first half of this year, we actually saw inflation come down at the fastest pace in 2023. So essentially, inflation was cut in half in those months. It went from 6% to around 3%. And then after June, we saw inflation break slightly from that downward trend. It ticked up a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. But another development when it comes to inflation this year was that in the June-July period, we actually saw U.S. wages outpace inflation for the first time in about 2 years. And then in June, average hourly earnings in the U.S. was at around 4.4%, and inflation stood at 3.1%. So if you calculate the inflation-adjusted hourly wages, it actually rose 1.2%. So that was good news. But of course, one of the other biggest and most welcome news of this year was that the Federal Reserve's pivot when it comes to their interest rates. During the Fed meeting earlier this month, Chair Powell said that interest rates were near or likely at the peak here. So the Fed also hinted at that potentially next year we could see interest rate cuts coming, according to their Fed projections. Around three rate cuts could be coming next year. Just a brief overview here of top topics when it comes to inflation.
Yes, and a really good overview. I also want to know about the stock market, Don. So what were some of the biggest developments there?
Sure. So it seems like it was a good year for the stock market. S&P 500 rose over 20% this year. But despite that, market breadth was actually pretty narrow. So despite the gains, only a few individual stocks actually contributed to the gains. So I mean, don't be surprised if your portfolio didn't perform as well as the S&P 500, because more likely than not, your portfolio is not only invested in the handful of stocks that led the gains this year. And don't forget, we started off this year with the AI rally, which was quite impressive in the stock market. It was almost the most dominant story for 2023. We had the likes of NVIDIA shares skyrocketing, and companies just mentioning the word AI got a boost in their share prices. And as well, in June this year, S&P 500 actually entered a bull market. The index rose 20% above a bottom that was hit in October, and by some definitions, this is considered a bull market. And the NASDAQ also hit a milestone in June. The index registered its strongest first half of the year performance in 40 years, with more than a 31% gain. Also, just a quick brief overview here.
Wow, yeah, really summarizing everything. And then just recently, we've seen world shares tick up a little bit, even following some gains in the stock market in the United States here. And that was expected to be like more of a quiet week this week because the holidays and everything.
Yeah, New Year's, Christmas. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do you have any updates on the Apple Watch ban?
Yeah, I mean, I was following that yesterday. Apple appealed a decision for the ban of its imports of the watches yesterday. The ban took effect on December 26th and is based on a complaint from medical tech company Maismo. Maismo accused Apple of stealing its oxygen sensing technology and building it into the popular Apple Watch. Apple wants the ban put on hold until the customs office reaches a decision, which is expected on January 12th, so we'll see what happens.
Right, yeah, and Apple apparently stopped the sale of the watches, but Reuters shows that this is still available on Amazon. So
yeah, while stocks last, at least.
Yeah. So what do you have else for us in the business world, Don?
Sure. Israel made its largest investment ever yesterday. The Israeli government agreed to give Intel a $3.2 billion grant, and that's for a new $25 billion chip plant in its building in southern Israel. Intel has about 10% of its global workforce in Israel, and the existing chip plant lies about 26 miles from Hamas-controlled Gaza. And Intel said the expansion is an important part in creating a more resilient global supply chain. And the company says that construction of the new plant has begun and it's due to open in 2028. Intel shares were up a bit, nearly 3% yesterday in trading, which is good to see. Seems like some welcome news for investors.
For sure. Also probably for Israel, amid all the economic worries, a $25 billion chip plant sounds like, a little bit of a sigh of a relief. So thank you so much, Don Ma, host of NTD Business, for bringing us all this today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And with 2023 slowly coming to a close, we take a look at some of the biggest news stories of the year in a special multi-part series. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the second part, a summary of April to June.
April was a busy month for Finland this year. The Russian neighbor joined NATO on April 4th, completing a historic security policy shift triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
We can now declare that Finland is the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty. Congratulations.
Later in the month, Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin, the world's youngest prime minister when she took office in 2019, aged 34, stepped down as chair of the center-left Social Democrats. This after her party narrowly lost the election. Moscow under attack as a drone exploded above the Moscow Kremlin in an alleged Ukraine drone attack on May 3rd. Russia accused Ukraine of the attack in a failed attempt to kill President Vladimir Putin. A new king was crowned in England on May 6th. King Charles III was crowned in Britain's biggest ceremonial event in 7 decades. Charles succeeded his mother, Queen Elizabeth, when she died in September 2022. The newly crowned King Charles appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony next to his wife, Queen Camilla, as supporters gathered outside. In health news, the World Health Organization declared that COVID was no longer a health emergency on May 5th. The WHO's Emergency Committee first declared that COVID represented its highest level of alert on January 30th, 2020.
It's therefore with great hope that I declare COVID-19 over as a global health emergency.
Officials say the COVID pandemic killed nearly 7 million people. In Turkey, incumbent Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan won a fiercely fought presidential election in May. The close election forced a May 28th runoff, which Erdogan won 52 to 47%.
I would like to thank each and every member of our nation who gave us the responsibility of governing the country for the next 5 years.
Russian President Vladimir Putin had to deal with an armed mutiny in June. The private army of mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin seized control of a southern city of more than 1 million people as part of an attempt to oust the military leadership. The mercenary fighters then barreled towards Moscow on June 24th. Prigozhin says his men were on a march for justice to remove corrupt and incompetent commanders he blamed for botching the war in Ukraine. But Prigozhin eventually called off the march, claiming he wanted to save Russian blood. Disaster struck on the open seas off of Greece in June. At least 82 migrants drowned early on June 14th, and hundreds more were missing and feared dead after their overloaded boat capsized and sank. The boat was carrying up to 750 refugees and migrants. Only 104 people were rescued. And finally, another disaster associated with the name Titanic, a submersible taking wealthy tourists to visit the famous ship's wreckage, stopped communicating on June 18th, about 90 minutes after beginning descent. The world watched tensely as people speculated how long they could survive based on oxygen calculations. A debris field from the imploded ship was found on June 22nd. All those aboard were killed. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
What an eventful year in just a few months, so many things.
A lot of things happening, yeah, and that short-lived mutiny by the Wagner Group saw Russia even tearing up roads to stop their advances.
Yeah, I remember that, and then Prigozhin dying just a little bit after August.
Yes, that's right. And stay with us. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan? We take you to a unique Hobbit-themed hotel that attracts fans from across the globe.
In case you didn't make it to the Alps this holiday, let these California restaurants whisk your taste buds away on a culinary journey there.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
بیست و سه سال 16 سال عمري ما 7
ما 11 كرديان برامبر خوشک و دایکانی ازدی اما کاری که دور لهمو چم که دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارو خی که است های به تایبت لایران خوشبوریا بشه که دگره تا با حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
ریم بو او هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم کرا قوتینیز گریا به ما متشکر به هر پیدن نبو باوان رحم نبو
قدامنا سوالان منخدران نزل باوان وستم بس نه go بس ناش پیشوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جیبریم. تی حمله زارود دم واسه وان همو جیبریم.
وحشیگریه کی توا عیاره ظلمی کی یک جار زور جوره لام افراط نکرده و تعدایی کی زور زوریان می‌دهد. اما نه روزانه دست فروشی داد. Imagine being a child, you know, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
I'm David Lamb in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we are NTD News.
Good to have you back. The holidays are in full swing and it's time to travel. Let's take a journey to some unique, beautiful places.
Yeah, and are you a Lord of the Rings fan? We visit a Hobbit-themed village in Armenia where you can live out your Middle-earth fantasies.
Nestled away deep in a snow-covered forest in northern Armenia is a unique place where J.R.R. Tolkien fans can stay in a Lord of the Rings wonderland. Two brothers have built a Hobbit-style village, attracting guests from all over the world.
I've tried to incorporate my professional expertise into this business. When designing the restaurant drawings, I made an effort to maintain our distinctive style and uniqueness.
The founders went to great lengths to pay attention to the smallest details and use high-quality craftsmanship.
We've tried to highlight the details to attract people. Our goal has been to craft every minor detail in a compelling manner.
Travel tourism in Armenia is growing, and hotel competition is becoming stiffer. The Lord of the Rings themed stay has been a smart and popular business move.
The competition in Dilijan was quite high, especially since 2019. We had to think about creating something that would have attracted tourists. We had to create something that was out of the box and would have brought a new style.
The hotel is family-friendly, and kids seem to love the unique Hobbit houses.
I was looking for unique places to stay in Armenia, and this came up as like one of the #1 locations to stay in. And we've read these books, Lord of the Rings, and so these little Hobbit houses really excited us. And because as you can see, we have there are 3, 4, 5 children. So they were very excited at staying in these little houses. Yeah.
The Hobbit houses are equally inviting in warm or cold weather.
All the pictures of the place was very green, because the pictures they've taken, everything is in summer. And I was like, oh, will it look the same in winter? Will it look nice? But, now coming here and seeing this whole place in snow, I think we made a very good choice to come in winter because it looks beautiful. It looks very magical, just like out of a book or a movie.
If you are a Lord of the Rings fan who wants to get whisked away on a magical journey to Middle-earth, look no further than Armenia to fulfill your dreams.
A whole Hobbit town. That's
really
a great
cool.
way. Do you travel into a fantasy world? How fun is that?
Just be careful and don't hit your head on those small doors.
Oh yeah, for those tall people out there.
And did you know that hobbits eat 6 meals a day?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you can expect to eat good if you go and try to be like them.
That's just a plus for me. All right, there is a new trend in holiday dining, talking about eating, this year that mimics a dining experience in the European Alps.
It's called the après ski dining, and it's transporting California diners to a winter wonderland of authentic flavors and atmosphere.
Can't get away to the European Alps for a winter holiday this year? Don't worry. Some California hotels are creating an elegant 5-star après-ski dining experience just for you. Après-ski is a French term meaning after skiing. It refers to social activities skiers can enjoy after a day on the mountain.
We chose dishes that are representative of something that is warm and thought out. So the fondue is obviously a classic, and we thought a dish such as a braised beef cheek or even a schnitzel would be something warm and filling for somebody that comes off the slopes.
Los Angeles restaurants are pulling out all the stops to provide diners with a fun experience that's more convenient than the hassle and stress of a trip to Europe.
It gives you something that's fun and shareable. Ultimately, like you're going to put this on your social media and you're kind of going to get the same amount of clout. And so, it's still a fun time.
The world-famous 5-star luxury Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills is all in on the après-ski theme this holiday. They're collaborating with Four Seasons Maghreb in France to offer an authentic après-ski menu and atmosphere too.
We have decided to take you away on an escape in the French Alps. This was an opportunity to have a partnership with the Four Seasons Megève, so you can discover the French Alps through Le Chalet Alpin. We have a curated menu where you can enjoy a cheese fondue, you can have a mulled wine with this après-ski concept. Après-ski meaning after ski, and this is one more drink that will enable you to enjoy and relax at the end of your day.
Not everyone can make it to the European Alps for a winter getaway. These California restaurants offer diners the opportunity to transport their taste buds on a delicious tour of alpine après-ski cuisine without the stress or expense.
All right, so we had Armenia, and now we have something for people that are maybe not able to travel as far, which is also great.
Yeah, and that skiing, it takes a lot out of you. You got to eat well after that.
But really there's nothing better than the feeling of après-ski in a cozy cabin and the warmth. So I like that idea. That was great.
Very charming.
All right, we'll head to a quick break. Just 1 minute. We'll be right back, so stay with us.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Good morning. Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. India deploys guided missile destroyers near Iran after another attack on a commercial ship. More on the Navy's mission statement to counter pirates and drone attacks in the region.
And a top aide to Israel's prime minister visits Washington to discuss what's next in Gaza. And President Biden calls Qatar to push for a hostage release deal.
As 2023 sets a new record for illegal border crossings, around 11,000 migrants are waiting in Mexico for a legal pathway. We have updates on the southern border crisis.
Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy says presidential TV ads aren't worth the money and pulls funding for them. Find out more about what's behind the move.
Many well-known businesses went belly up this year. Hear who they are and what caused them to fold.
A growing trend of raising pets for children is emerging. We take a look at the significance of this with a professional counselor.
From military dogs to avalanche rescue dogs, man's best friend provides companionship and assistance in all aspects of life. We take a look at some of the most important jobs dogs took in 2023.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Welcome also from me. Today is Wednesday, December 27th. In today's top news, over 11,000 migrants are now waiting in shelters and camps on Mexico's side of the border as thousands of illegal immigrants enter the U.S. each day.
Migrant caravans in southern Mexico have also been forming, made up of thousands of people from Central and South America.
Federal authorities say the average of weekly illegal crossers reached 9,600 this month. That's up from around 6,800 weekly encounters last month.
NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the latest on the border crisis.
2023 has seen a record number of unlawful crossers trying to enter the U.S., with Customs and Border Protection data sitting around 2.5 million encounters. Community leaders in Mexico told CNN roughly 11,000 migrants are waiting in shelters in northern Mexico, around 3,800 in Tijuana, over 3,000 in Reynosa, and 4,000 in Matamoros. Some looking for legal pathways laid out by the Biden administration. Many are pinning their hopes on the CBP One app. Others want to try to skip the line and cross illegally. Acting CBP Commissioner Troy Miller recently stated the surge is driven in part by pseudo-legitimate travel agencies run in Senegal advertising trips to the U.S.-Mexico border. CBP's senior official says the agencies connect migrants to smugglers that, in his words, recklessly put them in harm's way, like on train tops or crossing the Rio Grande. Miller says smugglers are dropping off between 500 to 1,000 migrants in remote areas of Arizona, creating a logistical nightmare for Border Patrol agents. Customs and Border Protection has temporarily suspended operations at several ports of entry in multiple states to reassign personnel to help with processing. In Texas, Maverick County Sheriff says the crisis is impacting the local economy and community.
Neighborhoods calling for it because they're afraid that the people are walking, strangers walking around the area. It's a situation that the law enforcement's getting a lot of pressure.
A U.S. delegation led by Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to meet with Mexico's president Wednesday in Mexico City. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall will be at the meeting. The DHS says it has deported or returned over 445,000 migrants since May. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
For more on this, we bring in Victor Avila. He's a retired special agent at HSI ICE. Good morning, Victor. It's really good to have you. And first, can you talk to me about where most of these migrants are coming from? Have you seen developments on this end since the migrant surge?
Absolutely. Good morning. I just returned from Eagle Pass, Texas myself. I was just there and received a lot of intel. The individuals coming from Mexico that are currently in Tapachula, a large group, about 8 to 10,000. This is aside from the numbers that you just reported that are already at the northern border. This is an additional coming from Tapachula that have been released by Mexico. Mexico now has given them the visa, if you will, to navigate through Mexico for 30 days, which gives them permission to go through Mexico to our southern border. And you're going to see them coming from Cuba, Venezuela, Haiti, Africa, and Asian countries. And you're going to see a large number of them come through Eagle Pass, Texas. Some will route over to the Arizona border as well.
So tell me more about this caravan that has formed in southern Mexico, and how do these caravans come to be? Who's organizing it?
Well, the number one probably entity responsible for this is the NGOs that are being subsidized by the U.S. government. These non-governmental organizations have a highly sophisticated network of organization of putting these people together in conjunction with the Mexican government and other governments in Central America and South America. And so they have done a great job of putting these people together, however, illegally, yet having them organized. And on top of that, have the cartels and Mexican National Police, do a lot of things to these migrants as they navigate through their country. Nevertheless, they make it to our southern border, and I was just there and saw tens of thousands of people come in, basically unchecked and processed and released into our country.
So what usually happens here, because it's quite a long wait, are they actually able, or how many are actually able to make it all the way from southern Mexico to the southern U.S. border?
That's a great question, because now they're actually flying in. A lot of times you had seen in the past that they were walking, and you still see some of these caravans doing these walking adventures, but now most of them are actually flying in, especially the ones from African countries. They are flying into Nicaragua. And this is important to know that there are other countries in Central and South America, and Nicaragua being one that has lifted their visa requirements for these individuals to fly into Nicaragua. From Nicaragua, then fly into Mexico City. Mexico City, then they're placed on a bus by the cartel. If you're placed on a bus, it's the Cartel Jalisco New Generation. If you come in a van or a private vehicle, it's the Sinaloa cartel. That's how they're fighting for the territory and the money that these individuals pay to these individual cartels to make it to our border.
Right, so of course, let's focus on the Mexican border there as well, because Blinken is leading a delegation now to speak for talks in Mexico. So what do you think needs to be the focus of that conversation?
Let me tell you, I worked in Mexico. As you guys know, I was assigned as a U.S. diplomat there, and I did a big border security assessment of the southern border of Mexico. And it's wide open. There is no enforcement. It kind of reminds me of our border at this time, because there is no enforcement, there is no application of the law, and Mexico has done absolutely nothing. And let me tell you, I have some very choice words for Mexico. If I was part of this delegation, is to hold Mexico accountable for their lack of enforcement on their side of the border. Mexico has very strict immigration laws that they have chosen not to enforce. All these countries that I mentioned to you, these individuals are also illegally in Mexico, and Mexico has the power to deport them and remove them, but they refuse to do it because there's a lot of money involved here, and obviously the corruption. And so what I believe the message of the U.S. government should be is to put Americans first and to hold Mexico accountable, and I think sanctions is a way to go.
So tell me more about why Mexico is not willing to enforce these strict immigration laws that they have there.
Well, I'll tell you, the Mexican president is its ideology. He's a communist, socialist president who has ignored a lot of the will of the people, including not just immigration law, but the cartels. He refuses to engage them and to take them down, which obviously the cartels have a major role in the movement of illicit drugs, fentanyl, methamphetamine, but also the human beings, not just in smuggling, but in human trafficking and the exploitation of these individuals into our country. And this president just will not, and he has said it publicly, he will not go after the cartels to stop this trafficking. And that's why the United States has to go in there and really strongly, which believe me, it's not going to happen on this trip. They want to work with other countries rather than hold Mexico accountable.
Understand. Thank you so much, Victor Avila. I really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
President Biden spoke with Qatar's Emir yesterday about the urgent need to free hostages held by Hamas. The White House says the two leaders also discussed increasing humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza.
Qatar and Egypt helped mediate a deal between Israel and Hamas at the end of last month. Diplomatic efforts for another pause since then have yielded little public results.
Qatar's state news agency said Biden called to talk about joint mediation efforts for calming the situation to reach a permanent ceasefire. The U.S. believes 8 U.S. citizens are still held captive by Hamas.
A member of Israel's war cabinet met with top officials in Washington yesterday to talk about the next phase of the war.
A White House official says talks included the need to focus on high-value Hamas targets, steps to protect civilians, and Israel's plans for Gaza after the war. And India is deploying missile-guided warships near Iran in the Arabian Sea after another attack on merchant shipping.
The move comes after a commercial vessel was struck off the Indian coast over the weekend. India stated it's investigating the nature of the attack. It says initial reports point to a drone.
The Pentagon says it was a drone launched from Iran. Iran's foreign ministry called the accusations baseless.
India's defense minister promised to take strict action against those responsible for the attack. He says surveillance in the region has been increased and that the Navy is committed to keeping the Indian Ocean safe and secure for maritime trade.
India's chief admiral at an inauguration ceremony Monday said 4 Indian destroyers are currently deployed to counter piracy and drone attacks on merchant shipping in the region.
A U.S.-led task force named Operation Prosperity Guardian is setting out to counter similar challenges in the Red Sea.
Coming up, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy says presidential TV ads aren't worth the money and pulls funding for them. Find out more about what's behind the move.
And many well-known businesses went belly up this year. Hear who they are and what caused them to fold.
From military dogs to avalanche rescue dogs, we take a look at some of the most important jobs man's best friend took in 2023.
Hi everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. You know, we're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and
organize your freezer. Now keep your freezer fresh and long-lasting. Smart Freezer Container. Thanks, Soyun. The magic of the freezer. Make efficient use of freezer space. Keep the freezer cleaner and more tidy. Easy to store modular system. Resistant from -22 degrees to 212 degrees. For family safety, BPA-free and LDPE material. Different sizes for different applications, depending on the size and use. Use it smartly. Efficient space utilization for cold air circulation. Neatly organized with minimal empty space. Partitions and trays for more efficient storage. Smart Freezer Container.
Thanks to Soyun. I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms.
Thank you.
Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast?
No thanks, we're good.
They're always in their own world.
What'd you get there?
Twice the work. Twice the surprises.
Just try it.
But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling.
I think you should ask her yourself. Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
Welcome back. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is pulling funding for TV ads with just weeks to go to the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the move.
Ramaswamy's campaign spokesperson confirmed to NBC News that they stopped buying TV ads, which typically make up the majority of political advertising spending, and have none booked for the immediate or distant future. Ramaswamy cast the move in a positive light on X, writing that presidential TV ad spending is idiotic. It comes with a low return on investment and is a trick that political consultants use to bamboozle candidates who suffer from low IQ. The biotech entrepreneur says his campaign is doing things differently, spending money in a way, he says, follows the data. Ramaswamy's move to pull TV ad funding sparked speculation on X that he would be former President Donald Trump's running mate. One user wrote, "He's going to drop out and endorse Trump. It was his plan all along. Not running for president, but auditioning for vice president." While another wrote, "This has VP written all over it." The latest national Real Clear Politics polling averages have former President Donald Trump in front with over 62%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley neck and neck with about 11%, and biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy in fourth with about 4%. The Iowa caucuses are on January 15th, the New Hampshire primary on January 23rd. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
As the year winds down, we look back at some of the big-name companies that tapped out and filed for bankruptcy.
Post-pandemic challenges, supply chain issues, and increased competition have all taken their toll on some well-known names. Here's the story.
This year brought tough economic times for some big-name U.S. retailers and businesses. Companies faced a spate of post-pandemic challenges related to high costs, supply shortages, and stiff competition. As a result, several well-known companies filed for bankruptcy in 2023. WeWork was once America's most valuable startup company. It seemed ready to recreate the nature of office work in the U.S. However, the COVID-19 pandemic had other ideas. The work-from-home boom made it difficult for the company to repay its debt. Although they filed for bankruptcy in November, WeWork intends to remain open while renegotiating leases and debt obligations. Rite Aid's massive lawsuit payouts from allegedly filling unlawful opioid prescriptions for customers were just one reason for its bankruptcy. Rite Aid also lost business to pharmacy chain alternatives like Amazon, Walmart, Target, and Costco. Rite Aid also blamed theft for the closure of some stores. The company has financing and debt reduction agreements from lenders to keep afloat through its bankruptcy. Bed Bath & Beyond's closing of its final 360 stores and 120 Bye Bye Babies made it one of the largest retail bankruptcies in years. The company was already downsizing to save money. Overstock.com bought the bankrupt company and merged the two brands as an online endeavor. Trucking company Yellow Corporation also threw in the towel this year. Decreasing business and a massive debt load were part of the problem. The 99-year-old company closed for good, leaving around 30,000 employees looking for work. Other big names such as Party City, Smile Direct Club, Lordstown Motors, and Tuesday Morning all went belly up this year. According to Bloomberg, interest rate hikes mean big-name bankruptcies could continue as companies take on more debt.
In other news, more and more people are choosing to get pets instead of having children.
I spoke with Dr. Dean Beckloff, a licensed professional counselor, to learn more about this new trend and what's behind it.
It's a percentage. It's smaller. You know, it's like, I think about 16, 17% who are not wanting, but it's higher than it used to be. My kids are in their early 30s, and they have 6 children between the two of them. So there are people who are opting to have children. However, we know the research is growing, and there could be a number of different reasons. As I said, contraception, also waiting too long, and then they can't have children. And then, we have a lot of stressors in our society, and I think there's a lot of people that just don't want to bring kids into it, which is on some level understandable. However, we still have a ton of people that want to have children. I do think that for the most part, people don't want as many. I have a lot of people in my practice that have 1 child or maybe 2. So we're seeing fewer children. And I think that's been a little bit of a concern for our country because we've seen population growth declining.
Right. And there is this book that says, it says that today's culture is making it harder to raise kids. So what do you think? What's your take on that?
Well, I think that's true. I think young people in particular, look at how the cost, I hate to say this, but the cost of a pet and the cost of a child is considerably different. So some people are actually reflecting on costs, I think. Other folks, as I said, probably have this feeling that should I bring them into this world? It seems pretty hard. And we also know that with the pandemic came things like depression, high anxiety. We're seeing that across the board. I think that some of those emotional impacts have also been a part of the picture as well.
You mentioned before there that it's concerning that the world population is declining. So do you think what do you think the answer to this should be?
Right now, I'm not sure this is a great concern. It's something to be noted. I think we are seeing a higher percentage, but we still have, as I said, around 70 to 80%, maybe higher, of folks who are in these age ranges that do want children. And so I think it's something to note, something to be aware of. Certainly, if it continues to be a trend and more people are opting not to have children, we're going to probably have to study it a little bit more. But right now, I think my personal opinion is let people be people, let them make these decisions. Obviously, I don't believe that we need to get in the middle of it in terms of government or anyone else, but noting it, understanding the trend, and then, if it does become problematic, that might be something to move in with higher education, greater education about it. But right now, we still have a ton of people who are having kids, which is a good thing too.
Right. Well, thank you so much for putting that into perspective. Dr. Dean Beckloff, I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. It's been good to be with you.
And dogs play a major part in our lives, from providing companionship to assisting humans in a variety of roles.
NTD's Andrew Thomas has the highlights of Man's Best Friend from 2023.
In Ukraine, scientists have been studying dogs around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They're trying to find out if the strays can teach humans how to live in the harshest environments. After a reactor exploded in April 1986, many dogs somehow managed to find food, breed, and survive. Now, scientists want to study the genes of their offspring.
We've had this golden opportunity to look at the structure of the population and really lay the groundwork for the question we all want to address, which is, how do you survive in a hostile environment like this for 15 generations?
In the French Alps, avalanche rescue dogs save lives. Stash and Nell have been training at this French ski resort all year. The bond between dog and handler is vital during these life or death situations.
It's mostly about having a connection with the dog. It's a lot to spend a lot of time with him when he's little, all the time, almost all the time with him. And then later, based on play, it's his sausage that's there. There you go. That's what we train him with a lot. It's his toy. It's his grail.
This is Rambo, a former military dog. The German Shepherd was seriously injured after a rocket attack in Ukraine.
This is where he was hit by the shrapnel. This is where you can see the sign of the surgery. You can see how much is missing up here. The whole ear and his teeth. One or two above, and also a couple of below.
Rambo spent 8 months at a shelter in Hungary. He was finally adopted by the Budapest police. Rambo also helps kids who are bullied for their looks.
Unfortunately, it happens that children mock each other because they wear glasses, because they have braces, because their ears look funny, or whatever, because they're different. With Rambo, we might be able to sensitize these children a little and show them that yes, he is injured, he's different, but he can do the same things as other dogs.
Another big year for man's best friend. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
They're really putting those powerful noses to use, rescuing the people under the avalanche.
Such incredible beings. And also, they're saving so many lives also in wars, as we have seen with Rambo, I think is his name, right?
Yeah, that's right. And providing that stress relief for travelers.
What's interesting is, can we just not forget that this lady said Chernobyl dogs have survived there for 15 generations? That's remarkable. And apparently they have found that those dogs have very different DNA from those that just live 10 miles away.
Oh.
So that's interesting.
Yes.
On that note, we're wrapping up our show here, but we'll keep you updated with the latest information. Stay tuned for our News Today broadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.